And one of our proud sponsors today is Ogden Market, downtown, right on the corner of Ninth and Ogden. They have beer, they have wine, they have spirits, they have some of the best groceries in town. You can go there and get fresh chicken, fresh ground beef. They will cut it right there for you. They have wine, they have spirits, they have beer, they have drinks. Their aisles are full of fantastic groceries with some of the best prices in town. They also have some of the loosest slots in town. Ninth and Ogden, about 2 streets from the El Cortez Casino. Once again, Ogden Market. Come on down and get your groceries and enjoy yourself. It is a family run, a Las Vegas icon right on the corner of Ninth and Ogden. That is Ogden Market. They have groceries, they have everything there for you. And I'm going to tell you, I've lived downtown for 27 years. It is one of the best grocery stores in the city. Ogden Market, right on the corner of Ninth and Ogden. With that, I have a special guest today, my friend Eric Masi. I always learn at least 10 things from him every time he's on the show. And today, once again, he's going to talk to you about what's going on in this country as far as illegal foreclosures. Eric, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, hello. This is Eric Masi calling in. One of the things I wanted to cover today is banking lender licenses. Okay? When you sign your contract for a mortgage, you're agreeing that a lender, which means beneficiary lender, can foreclose on your home if you don't make the payments. So your agreement is between you and the lender. It is not an agreement between you and a servicer. Those are two different things. A banking lender can be merely servicing a loan. So what I'm coming across in various states, including Nevada, is that servicers are falsifying that they are a banking lender and they could foreclose on your home. They could only foreclose underneath the authority of the beneficiary lender. If there's no beneficiary lender on a loan, they cannot foreclose based on their own merit, because they're not, in most cases, like Select Portfolio and PennyMac and these servicers are not licensed as a beneficiary lender to collect a debt and foreclose on their own merits. So I'm running across this in several states that some of the companies like Shell Point Servicing is not even licensed in Chicago, but yet they're foreclosing on this person's home. Mm-hmm. And they're partners with NewPin, companies such as them, but they keep NewPin and their license quiet, and it has no marks against them, because when somebody like a homeowner hires an attorney, the only thing they know is Shell Point, and that's who they're going after. So what they kind of do is they what I call it is bait and switch. It's almost like playing rock, paper, scissors, keeping you guessing who you're going to sue and who you're going to protect your home from illegally taking it. Mm-hmm. So when you sue a company, like say for example in Chicago, and you sue Shell Point and they're not licensed, you're suing a non-licensed entity, they're not going to comply pretty much with really nothing in your court case. You just wasted a bunch of money going after an unlicensed party that's after your home.
Right.
So the first thing you want to go under it's for consumers. It's MNLS, and let me see if it's .org. I want to make sure I get the website correct here. Consumers. Okay, so it's NMLS consumeraccess.org. That's the whole website address. Mm-hmm. And you could go in there, put in the servicer's name, and it'll give you a list of states that they're licensed under. For the longest time, Select Portfolio wasn't being granted a license. So therefore, legally, technically, they're not legal to be able to collect and take your home. They'll presume this and state that they could, but But at the end of the day, they'll turn around and use a different fictitious name, such as U.S. Bank National Association, or somebody else took your home, not them, because they weren't licensed. They, after the license board director, his last name is Farelli, after he retired, then Select Portfolio was granted a license in Nevada. But at the time, he would not grant the license. They did some bogus foreclosures and things like that of that nature, and they were not granted a license. But that's the first thing you want to check when you're going to sue a servicer or stop foreclosure. So, do you have any questions at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that people wouldn't even think about, would they, that these places are not licensed. That's incredible.
Oh, yeah. Like, example, another lady I'm dealing with in Florida, Shell Point, there again, is not licensed in Florida, but yet she has 6 homes. They're foreclosing on 2 of the homes. So when I brought this to light to her, I said, if you're going to file bankruptcy or do anything of that nature, the first thing you want to know if they're licensed to collect. Because if they're not licensed, how are they going to validate the debt in bankruptcy court? They would just sit back and debts to be discharged and not say nothing, and then use some other fictitious name to come foreclose. A servicer is only hired, and they're being paid servicing rights just to send you payment coupons. That's all they're hired to do. So they can't foreclose on their own merits, because it has to be under the authority of the beneficiary lender. If you read a deed of trust, say, for example, in the state of Nevada, Fannie Mae Freddie Mac 3029 form, it says all the way through the contract, could be 17 pages, that your agreement is with the lender. The lender has the right to foreclose. Does not say servicer in their own merits have any rights to foreclose. Does not say that. That's not what your agreement is with. So if there's only a servicer, that right there breaches the entire contract.
Wow.
So if you check example around the area of line 23 of the 3029 Fannie Mae Freddie Mac deed of trust, it states that a biased or separate trustee entity is to record authorization whenever there's any changes in the loan. Say there's assignments, assigning a new servicer into the collection or into the loan parameters. That has to be authorized by the trustee. So you will notice in the state of Nevada, they will do assignments and never follow it by any authorization from any trustee. So that in itself, under line 23, breaches the entire deed of trust contract right there. So there's a lot of things to go in and inspect what you agreed to and check it out and see if they're performing following that contract. If they're not, then you know you're being defrauded and they're just taking the home. The reason why you want to protect yourself there again, because the Amnesty Act is coming to an end with the new Donald Trump. You're going to be taxed for everything. I mean, if they're not going to pay any note and say you have an agreement of $400,000, you could be taxed for the whole $400,000. Now, how is that fair to the homeowner that lost his home to some illegal entity? So you need to protect yourself. That's one of the things that bankruptcy court does, is protect you from taxes on your primary residence. If you have rental properties, of course, then you're not so protected, because that's a rental investment property and you will be taxed. But at the end of the day, why should you be giving your homes to an illegal debt collector that doesn't deserve it? So they're taking the home and making 100% profit on it and flipping the property.
Wow.
So you want to make sure you know who you're giving your home to. It's very important, because you will be taxed.
Yes. We are talking live to Eric Masi, who is an expert in illegal foreclosure, what's going on in this state. And once again, We are sponsored by Ogden Market. Come on down to Ninth and Ogden, and you can get wonderful food. You can get wonderful beverages. They also have incredibly loose slots. Come on down to Ogden Market on the corner of Ninth and Ogden in beautiful downtown Las Vegas. Eric, after the last real estate bubble, after it burst in 2007, 2008, what new regulations or was put in against Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Was anything changed? Any laws changed to protect homeowners? What's going on?
Well, yeah, they're basically a government GSM. Us, the taxpayers, had to put $200 billion behind them, or otherwise Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, with all the fraudulent activity inside these loans, was going to be shut down and everybody would have got free homes. So the government said, no, we can't do that. Let's put the $200 billion behind there. So basically us as citizens, we own them. That belongs to the government, putting that kind of money behind them. So of course, with that said, we're supposed to be protected through the government and through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The way the whole system is supposed to work, when you agree to a loan and they're using a Fannie Mae Freddie Mac deed of trust, that's written with the parameters of their rules. It's supposed to be a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan. You should be able to call upon them and say, hey, is my property address in your system? I've seen in a lot of cases they'll say, no, it's not. It's never been that type of loan. Well, why are you using that particular deed of trust? Brings up the next question. That's written for the rules and parameters of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So at that point, basically the whole entire loan is in breach, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is supposed to hire an aggregator, and as you make your payments, that's how the REMIC pool and investors get paid. It divides your payments up back to the investors, because they're the ones who put X amount of monies out, hundreds of millions of dollars, for these loans to happen. If they're not being paid, what they do is in turn they sue our government, and our government has to back all that missing monies and pay these investors, which comes out of our tax dollars there again. So at the end of the day, our tax dollars is the one paying for our homes. These illegal debt collectors have no right taking the home. When investors purchase these investments, they're buying unsecured debt. So the investor himself has no right to collect on a debt because they're purchasing an unsecured debt. But we're supposed to be protected currently now, after the bubble, through Dodd-Frank and all of its rules and parameters. They had to add the Dodd-Frank, trying to bring a lot of regulation back into these mortgages to start making them legal again, like they once were. So, do you have any other questions in that area?
Have you seen any actual changes? Do you think people are more protected now since Dodd-Frank, since that bill?
Yeah, because what I did is I went out and sampled. Let's see, if I apply for a mortgage, let's see what they ask for, and let's see what they demand. And I look for all these things. The only thing that I didn't like is core logic is part of the fraud. So say I applied for a mortgage at Wells Fargo, they're using core logic to run my credit. But to qualify for a mortgage, it's a real huge, stringent type process now, as opposed to the way it was before.
Yeah.
They're clamping down on these brokers. If you start doing shady documentation, it's an automatic arrest, and that's where we're at today. All right. The only trouble and problems I might see down the future here is Donald Trump is trying to rewrite the Dodd-Frank Act and make a lot of the rules weaker and more for the bank. So let's hope he doesn't go the wrong way with it and start weakening the Dodd-Frank Act. Mm-hmm. But if you Google it and look up Dodd-Frank, you'll see all the rules and requirements that we currently have when you apply for a mortgage. The REMIC pool was designed and built by our government. So it's not that the government had any intention on defrauding homeowners, but what ended up happening, Alan Greenspan took away all the regulation and allowed these banks to just basically run amok and use the buy the debt down so you could afford the house. You don't have to move and lose your home. What I'd like to see is, instead of the banks making a decision or a servicer making the decision if you qualify or not, I want to see regulation where the government goes in and regulates if you qualify or not and mandates that. The government needs to be more proactive in that area. I don't see this. It's always like you call the servicer and they make the decision if you qualify or not. If they're not licensed in the state, they're going to immediately just reply to you and say you didn't qualify. They don't want to get involved. They just rather just take the home and move on.
Yeah. You know, I know it's revision. Go ahead, Art. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. These notes in your agreement is supposed to be a negotiable note. You should be able to call and negotiate terms, even though you signed and agreed to one thing. But these servicers are supposed to work with the homeowner and allow you to negotiate some new terms, even maybe lower the interest rate or take away the PMI insurance so you could afford the house. Mm-hmm. PMI insurance by the month could add, $300-400 to your payment.
Wow.
Well, as you're making your payments and say you own 20% of the property at that point because you bought the debt down 20% by you making the payments, well, you should be able to have that right to remove the PMI insurance. And that's another issue I'd like to bring to light. I'm involved in claims where servicers are violating the PMI insurances and LPMI. They're putting in claims 3-4 times over and being paid for that house 3 or 4 times of the claim note, and foreclosing also, taking the home as well. Mm. So that's insurance fraud, and I'm involved in those claims. I've been having investigators come to my house and asking me questions along those lines and how they're violating the terms of the agreement. So you have any questions in that area?
Yeah, it was always amazing to me. I mean, I went to school for economics, and I just could not believe in the early 2000s and mid 2000s is whose idea was it? What nutty economist even came up with the idea of these subprime loans to these homeowners who obviously could not afford these homes? It was just, to me, it was batty. I couldn't believe it.
Well, yeah, the banks were putting the package together, of course. Alan Greenspan was allowing it. You could look up, I believe her name is Brooksley Bourne, if I may not be saying it quite right. She attempted to go in and warn Alan Greenspan and the board, do not securitize these debts. Securitized debts does not fit mortgage parameters. Do not do this, okay? And they ignored her, and they actually got her to where she had to just clam up and not say anything anymore. They basically threatened her to stay out of the board and out of these meetings, that she couldn't go on coming in making these statements back in 1997. They went ahead and securitized the debts anyway and ignored her and allowing funding mortgages from derivatives and credit default swaps and the whole 9 yards. Well, if you read about her, Brooksley Bourne, she explains how she tried to warn Alan Greenspan and everything to not allow this to happen and to occur. And that's what created all of this mortgage fraud and everything. That's where it all began, because that allowed banks to just steal from investors. And then, of course, the illegal debt collector forecloses at that point, steals the home. The banks don't want your home. You'd be actually wasting your time suing a bank because they've already stole from investors. So with all of that said, that's what creates a lot of our war too. Like countries like Greece and various countries going broke, these big time investors losing their money. Well, they're not happy about that. I mean, pure and simple. So our government tries to print more and more unearned money to pay these investors back.
Yeah.
To try to alleviate war.
Yeah.
So that's where all those changes, that we need regulation, and we need regulation of the Remick pool. We got to stop cheating these investors. That's not fair for these banks making a killing
Yeah.
on stealing from investors.
Yes, they are.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just amazing. That's the only thing. I mean, I'm a big Donald Trump supporter, but it just sounds like he wants to deregulate again. That's the bottom line. That's how I think he sees, pumping the economy back up. I think he wants to start deregulating a lot of things, and it scares me a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, and it scares me of the people who he's putting in office from Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns. I mean, these people were noted crooks. I mean, it's all in writing, and he's putting them in office. Well, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, because they're trained and they're programmed how to scam the investors. That's what it was all about.
That's right.
So, and when you're scamming investors, at the end of the day, it ends up reflecting on the homeowners there again. Because you know what, it's different if you were being foreclosed the correct way and the legal way, and a real bank is taking your home and they're paying the debt off. How do you know that the debt's being paid? You have no guarantee. You have no guarantee how you're being taxed. I had a situation where they're trying to say that my father got a 1099-A. That means deed in lieu, that he handed them the keys to the house. Well, how is that possible when he's deceased? So how are they taxing him a 1099-A, not a 1099-C? So it's a 1099-A means deed in lieu. You're handing the bank the keys, technically. Okay, so how is he being taxed? How is he handing them the keys while he's deceased? So these are the things that it's defrauding the IRS, the whole nine yards. They're going after PMI insurances and LPMI insurances, the whole nine yards. They're wanting to be paid 10 times the amount of the note if they could get away with it.
Sometimes.
So that's where our government.
It's unfair. I mean, I hate to say it like this. I mean, I worked on LaSalle Street in Chicago, which is very equivalent to Wall Street in New York. And I mean, I went to a very good business school in Chicago, and let me tell you something. Those suits in those offices are extremely smart, man, and it's almost unfair for the average guy just buying a home. They have no idea what these guys, the things that they're coming up with in these offices, in these conference rooms. These guys are smart, man. They're paid to make money,
This whole fraud scheme was constructed by masterminds. These guys are real sharp who set all this up. So that's why I say they get licensed overseas. So how does our government shut them down? You have to get every single country to agree to shut these institutions down. Not any one country can shut them down. These banks and banking industries are bigger than our government and have more power than our government. So our government has no right shutting them down anyway. I mean, they're not happy with any one type of stealing or taking the monies. They have to go out and fix the LIBOR in London. You could look that up on Google, fixing the LIBOR, so that they fix it to where they could make interest rates higher, because the interest rates are based on the LIBOR. So there's just scheme after scheme. It just doesn't stop.
Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah,
Eric, we got about 2 minutes left. Just give the people a place where they can reach you at, or they can go online and get some information from you and some advice, because I have a feeling that we're going to need more people like you, because I think that he plans on deregulating a lot of institutions. So we need people to be protected.
Yes.
So let them know where they can reach you at.
Okay. You could go to my website, securitizedbankruptcysystems.com. All of my contact information is on that website.
Excellent.
Including the email.
Excellent.
sbsbankruptcy@att.net.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric, the great Eric Masi, man. Again, I learned so much from him. People, he is the real deal. He is an expert on what's going on in this country, and please call him and go to his website and find out how to protect yourself, because we cannot afford to go through what we went through 8 years ago, Eric. We just cannot as a country.
Can't do it again.
No.
Can't do it again. We'll just be buying homes on wheels, getting camper trailers. That way they can't foreclose.
Right. So, thank you so much, Eric.
Right.
I look forward to speaking to you next Wednesday. All righty.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
That was the great Eric Masi, an expert on illegal foreclosures and what's going on in this country. I want to thank you so much for watching. Once again, Google Chris Garcia, the Conservative American. We will be up on YouTube in a couple of hours. We are sponsored. One of our sponsors is Mail by Renee, who now also offers U-Haul rentals, and they take reservations 702-262-0703. And once again, the wonderful Ogden Market right on the corner of 9th and Ogden. It is a downtown legacy. Ogden Market, beer, wine, spirits, fun games, some of the loosest slots in town, and some of the best groceries at the best prices. Come on in. 9th and Ogden, the legendary. Been serving downtown Las Vegas for decades. Ogden Market, right on the corner of 9th and Ogden. Thank you so much for watching. Chris Garcia, the Conservative American. I told you I will be with you every step of the way and let you know what's going on in this country. God bless America. God bless our troops, and Godspeed to Donald Trump. Thank you.